My mother was one of the very first female physicians of Coimbatore. I said I was determined that that's the only way I'll choose to go. Establishment of Women's Center was a totally different game. The need in my mind was that I needed something that women would like to be. This is not just they go back well, they go back happy. The community of Coimbatore has given me all kinds of encouragement.
Hi ma'am. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your background and experience in the healthcare industry?
It's a long question because it goes back to about 5 decades. So my background is that my mother was one of the very first female physicians of Coimbatore. And she had done OB/GYN and a whole generation of Coimbatore. I think there were many, many people that she had delivered. So, and I was her daughter, and that's what I saw when I was a child. So there was no other thought in my mind at any point in time about anything else that I wanted to do. And I think it was fixed in one. As a matter of fact, my father tried discouraging me a little, saying that you know how hard your mother is working. Do you really want that kind of life kind of thing? I said I was determined that that's the only way I choose to go, and I went that way.
Amazing. I think that goes a long way. So ma'am, what inspired the establishment of Women's Center Hospital and what makes it unique in the healthcare landscape?
Establishment of Women's Center was a totally different game. For that, I have to tell you my story a little going back. Going back, my story was that the moment I finished medicine, that was in Chennai. There was no medical college in Coimbatore at that time. So in Chennai, I finished my medicine. And the last year that we were doing in Chennai, that was a time when most of us went to Sri Lanka route or write entrance exam for US. And the whole class, it was almost like a picnic. We'll go do the exams in Sri Lanka. And only Sri Lanka had the exams. Americans didn't have exams here at that time. And when you got good scores in that, and you got entry to medical institutions in the US. So it was almost like an adventure trip. You go write an exam, and depending on the marks that you will score, you will get entry into an American hospital. And my scores were pretty decent, so I got an entry in the middle of the year. Usually they don't give middle of the year. Their year starts in July. But I got an entry in February to an OB hospital in New York. And they gave me the OB program, obstetric program. So it was one very cold winter morning in New York, and I had nothing in my hand. India didn't allow you to take any foreign exchange at that time. So I had a job which promised me some income, and I was all of 23 years old. $8 in my pocket. I landed in New York on a cold wintry day, and that's how the story started.
Sounds very pleasant.
Once it happened, and it was one after another, you know.
Okay.
And just before I traveled to New York, short time before that, I got married as well.
Okay.
And then my husband had to get a job, and he got a job, and he moved with me. And this is how the story started. So it was both between Canada and New York. We spent a decade and something. We had children there, bought our home, settled down. And there came a time when I didn't want my children to grow up there completely, being totally ignorant of what it is, and I wanted to come back. But another story was that I didn't start in OB/GYN. The science was so fascinating that once I started the residency, I changed over to cardiology. So back in the 1970s, cardiology was still pretty in the nascent stage, and cardiac catheterization labs were very few in India. They were only in Bombay and Calcutta, and not even Calcutta, Delhi, and those cities. So I was into the cardiac catheterization program and cardiology, and my program head one day called me and said, "What do you want to do when you finish? You want to stay here?" I said, no way, I want to go back. Okay. And he said, if you truly want to go back, this is not the specialty that you should be in. because you're not going to have the infrastructure what you have in New York that time. So you have to choose something that you can do back home.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up in OBGYN. Okay, the decision was made. And my children were growing up pretty fast, and I wanted to be back here.
Okay.
And when I was coming back, Coimbatore was always, you're doing something about the city. This was the home. This is the only place I wanted to come back to. I call it, it's a Kongunadu and the black cotton soil belt. Once you're born here, once you grow up here, this is where you want to be. And this is how I came back.
Okay. And so that's how Women's Center...
No, that was the beginning. I was in a multi-specialty hospital.
So you started afresh again. Okay.
Hospital which didn't have a department ONG, so I had to start from scratch with an empty room is all I had, and one obstetric forceps is all I had in the department. But I was used to doing it at a far higher level with fetal monitoring and ultrasound and all that. So it one after another. One of the first ultrasound machines in all of Tamil Nadu was ours.
Wow, okay.
And the same way, one after another, we set up each department. And then I went into newborns as well, because that has to follow obstetrics. And it grew like that, and grew to a stage where I was literally doing everything that would be a separate women's hospital. And within the premises of a multi-specialty hospital, you couldn't fit on everything that I wanted to do. And that's how Women's Center started. And I didn't want to name it after anybody. After women was the only name I chose. So it's Women's Center.
It's a pride that we are even sitting here and talking to somebody like this.
It's just you've got to feel at home. It belongs to Coimbatore.
Thank you. How does Women's Center Hospital prioritize patient care and comfort, especially in the context of women's health care?
Women, I do think, need a special area for their own care. One of the things that hit me when I got back was both in the public hospitals and in the private hospitals, you can go and compare, any ward, surgical ward, medical ward, OBGYN, or surgical ward. If the men's ward has 100 beds, the women's ward will have 20 beds. We are half of population. Okay, but it was always something that was behind. When it was dedicated to women, the areas that were dedicated to women were less specialized, less number of beds, and less facilities in there. So the need in my mind was that I needed something that women would like to be in there. Okay, and when the idea started growing, I also wanted it to be aesthetic, a pleasant place to be in. See, ours is a fantastic specialty. No other specialty people can claim that all of their patients go back happy. This is not just they go back well, they go back happy.
Happy. That makes a difference.
And I think this is something that needs a place to celebrate it. Okay, and motherhood has brought in another aspect for this, because motherhood is a chain all over India that is doing mainly obstetrics, and you may be aware of it, maternity care, and they added it to be a real celebration, like balloons and ribbons and that kind of a thing, and we have, for women who are pregnant also, a kind of a celebration, and what traditionally used to be done only at home, we do it that way. So besides the fact that we're providing cutting-edge medical care, we're making it a human place.
That's where the entire crux is.
Yes.
What are the hospital's future plans and vision for further enhancing women's healthcare services in Coimbatore and beyond?
Today, the way we function is different from every other OBG department. And it's not just obstetric alone. It's end-to-end. End-to-end. Starts with adolescent problems, then people having difficulty in conceiving, infertility. Every street corner has an infertility unit today. We started the assisted reproductive technology, which is IVF unit, back in 1994.
Okay.
One of the very first units to be started in all of India. Okay. And I had very phenomenal people backing me up in that venture. The head of the department in Singapore at that time, NUH, was the first Asia's test tube baby. Okay. And the head of that hospital and the unit and everything there was a person called Ratnam, Professor Ratnam. Okay. Professor Ratnam was a right hand of Lee Kuan Yew, who was a legend by himself. And he recognized Ratnam as one of the 5 people who contributed most to Singapore becoming Singapore.
Wow.
But Professor Ratnam was a Sri Lankan Tamilian. So he had his heart in helping Tamil people. So we used to meet in international conferences. And he told me, if you ever want to do this, approach me, I'll help you. So he brought his team from Singapore, trained my embryology team, trained my clinical team. We built an infrastructure around it and started the first IVF unit back in 1994. And that's grown. So we have that, and then we have obstetrics at the highest possible level. I told you the first ultrasound machines and intrauterine diagnostic methodologies, genetic testing, all that we started, and growth and deliveries with all kinds of safety profile available for them. And then the NICU came. NICU had to be neonatal ICU, had to be, one in a few babies, 50 babies or something might require NICU care. So that had to go along with it. Then that came along. I just didn't want it an emergency care one. I wanted it to be a complete, it's called a level 3 neonatal ICU. So that came. And cancers, today it's taking off. So that required a unit to address that kind of issue, screening for malignancies, whether it's mammograms or whether it's uterine screening or whatever. Now it's come to even prevention. But we started with the very first cancer screening program. We used to go out and do mass screening in Sirmuge in Viscose, when Viscose was running, and there were a lot of women employees there into one place in Palachi. See, we used to do hundreds and hundreds of cancer screening. So that is again a part of what we are doing now. Menopausal care. So it's a whole range of things, starting from menarche to menopause and beyond.
So I think that's where we have all walks of people coming from.
Yes.
And it stays true to why it's now. Lastly, what message would you like to convey to the community about Women's Center Hospital and its commitment to women's wealth and wellness?
The community of Coimbatore has given me all kinds of encouragement to be what I am and to be able to do what you want to do. I think that's something special about Coimbatore. Coimbatore people think out of the box, and they like to look at things and grow them. The textile industry about 100 years ago grew in Coimbatore because men got into ships, went to Manchester, dismantled all of the equipment, brought it back here, set it up when they were not even that fluent in English. It happened hundreds of years ago. So that spirit lives in Coimbatore. Coimbatore has totally supported me from what I am doing so far, and I want it to grow even more. And I think there is much more. There's never an end to what you can do. So we'll always try to be reaching for that end.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.